Hey, I'm Tom Sinclair, and it's time for another episode of Streaming Idiots. Now, you got to know, you don't have to be an idiot to watch. I'll take care of the idiot part. Believe me, that's the case. Today, we're going to be talking about broadcasting. Well, every day we talk about broadcasting. We're talking about sports broadcasting, and we happen to have a remote camera in Pasadena, California. And so we'll be bringing that cam in just a minute to show you what your sporting event could look like. And so let's see if we can get started on this little show here. In the first segment today, we talked about getting your VidBlaster set up for sports, but now we're going to talk a little bit about the hardware portion of it. And one of the most important things is cameras. You need to decide whether you're going to do standard definition, whether you're going to do high definition. And some of that decision is going to be based upon the strength of the internet connection you can get at your remote venue. If you can get a good speed of 5 megs up, then, well, maybe 7 megs up, then maybe you can do HD. But if you're limited to a meg or 2 or 3, then you're going to really want to stay with standard definition. In fact, I like to do my standard definition, my 864 by 480, 30 frames a second. I like to do that at about 1600. So that, and you want to double that, so now you're at 3 megs, 3 megs up plus, just for standard definition. So be careful on that one. Make sure you've got enough internet connection to do high definition. But if you don't, you have standard definition, then your cameras can be anything as simple as a Canon Vixia set up with its standard AV connection in the back. And the nice thing about the AV connection is that the AV connection can give you not only video, but it can give you audio too. And I've got this camera set up, this remote camera. Well, let me go ahead and pop over to it for just a second. Let's see if we can bring it in here. Yeah, there you go. So you've got some of the background sound. This is coming off the camera, as well as the image of the camera. Now, I will have to say I'm cheating. This is actually something I recorded previously, and have set up with a camera pointed at the television set. I know it's not very high tech, but the reason for doing that was to be able to illustrate that the camera can give you both video and ambient audio. And there's nothing like hearing the crowd noise and the band and the cheers and all of that to really help you feel like you're there. And so by going to the image, that's good. But when we turn up the sound, we really do add the ability to feel like we're there. So that's a trick that you may want to try. And the way we did that is we took a balun, an audio video balun, and here's a very simple one. This one's made by Intelix. And it has 4 connections on it. They're RCA, so this is going to be standard definition. 2 of them are video, and 2 of them are audio. And so we've taken the composite feed out of the Canon, and we've plugged it into one of the video connections. And then we've got also audio out of the camera on an RCA connector, and we plugged that into one of the audio connectors. And in fact, you've actually got here 2 videos and 2 audios. So you've got enough to run 2 cameras off of one balun. Now the balun has a place for the audio and the video to plug in here. And then on the other side, it's Cat 5 cable. And you can go 100 feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet. Yeah, you can put cameras all over the place like this. Standard definition cameras, quick and dirty, easy to do. It's a great way to get that signal going around. So let's say you've got high definition cameras. That same camera I just showed you also will output a component feed. Well, what about a component balun? So you've got the 3 different channels for your component right there, and Cat5 cable. So you've got the ability to do component. What about HDMI? I don't have one of those to show you, but HDMI will do the same thing. Plug HDMI in one side. HDMI is a pretty fat signal, so you have to plug in 2 Cat5 cables of the exact same length to go, and basically 1 balun on either end. So your Cat5 here, Cat5 to there, and then from here you're going into your PC, and from here you're going into your cameras. Now today we're doing this our remote camera quick and dirty. We're using an easy cap, and we're getting a pretty decent video picture. It's standard definition. I think the video cap setting is 720 by 480, and we're streaming 864 by 480, so it's spread, I think, just a little bit extra, but it really can bring in a decent feed, and it's not a lot of money, and it's very portable. Cat5 is easy to get, and so there are not a lot of problems there, and you can pick up the audio. Now, one of the other benefits about the balun is it gives you 4 channels, and let's say you're going to use video on one and ambient audio on the other. Well, one thing you can do is you can use one of the audio channels not to receive audio from the camera, but to send audio to the cameraman. So he can plug in here on his end and hear what you're saying on your end. So if you had a separate mixer, you could plug into that. I think you might need a headphone amplifier in order to make that work. There's a great thread on the VidBlaster forum that talks about how to use baluns and amplifiers and mixers as a low-cost monitor system. And here is the thread. It's http://forum.vidblaster.com/showthread.php?t equals 1225 ampersand highlight equals intercom. I'll leave that up there for a second so you can get it. And it's a great thread that talks about how to create an intercom system for less than a couple $100, and it can be of almost any length. That's the beauty to it. You can also do it to make a send and receive, so that the camera folks can talk back to you if they want to. You can get them a cheap headset off of eBay for $10. It'll last a season, but that'll give them the ability to talk back to you, and you talk back to them, and everybody feels like, hey, they're in the know. There's nothing like the ability to communicate with the folks that are doing your cameras to help make sure they get the shot you want. Some of the shots are going to look like this. They're going to be that wide shot, and then some of the shots are going to look, well, our wide shot zoomed in a little bit, but then they're going to cut, there you go, to that close-up shot. So that's what your second cam's going to do. Now we're back to the first cam again. This happens to be the national championship game from last, I guess from January. There we go. So having more than one camera can benefit you. Now you also can put a camera down on the sidelines. Obviously you're going to need to get some permission from the powers to be for that, and take that Cat5 cable and duct tape it down to whatever you need to duct tape it down to. Throw some carpet over it to get it over where foot traffic is, and plug in right down there. You can run a camera like this for about an hour on the battery. So you only need to connect into the baluns. Now I have seen some folks get some of the wireless video transmitters off of eBay for $100 or $150, and use those in order to send the wireless signal from the sidelines up to the press box. So you want to play around with that. It definitely is a line of sight kind of thing, and if you move around too much, it doesn't always work out best for you, but that's one other thing you want to try. Another thing to put on your list besides baluns and cameras is probably as good a tripod as you can afford. Now, I had some old ones. There was some made by Slick, S-L-I-K, that were broken, and I was able to buy a new head for it and put an old broken tripod back in business. And it was a nice fluid pan head, so it made your shots nice and smooth as you followed the activity down the field. One of the things that I noticed in streaming sports is that you can't move a camera quickly. And in fact, if you notice, even in the pros, ESPN, ABC, all the folks that do live sports, they don't pan their cameras. Instead, they'll switch cams and go from one cam to another, or they will use they'll zoom out or zoom in order to give that sense of movement. But you won't see them move quickly. For example, you won't see them try to follow a punted football. They'll show you the punter, they'll show you people running down the field, and then they'll show you the person making the catch. But they're not going to try to follow that ball through the air because they just won't. It'll just be a big blur. And that's how the big networks are able to get away with looking as good as they do. And you try to do the same thing and say, okay, well, I'm going to follow the ball, and it looks like a blur. And you think, oh, I must be substandard. No, they're just using some tricks that they know about. Watch a football game that you don't care about sometimes strictly from a technical standpoint, or a soccer match, or a baseball game. But watch it and count the number of cameras that are being used. Try to figure out where they're placed, figure out what each camera's function is, and how they're operating. And you can learn an awful lot by doing that. Microphones are a great part of the sports process. Being able to talk to the folks that are listening and tell them what's going on if they can't tell what's going on is important. And typically that's done with a play-by-play announcer, that is somebody that's announcing what's going on as it happens, and then a second person that takes the role of a color announcer. And this is the person that kind of explains why things happened, might share some stats, and also gives the play-by-play guy a chance to catch his breath. So it really does work best when you've got two folks kind of back-to-back to do this. And it's especially nice if you've got somebody that used to play that sport, or used to play that sport for that particular team that you're working with, or perhaps used to coach in that field. It was always fun for me to have folks to come in that had played the sport or had coached it or both, and knew an awful lot about the game. When I was doing soccer, I wasn't a soccer guy. I was just a dad that liked to broadcast his son's school stuff. So having those resources there can really help a lot. And you give each one of them a headset, and the headset's got a little volume control on it so they can turn themselves down when they're about to sneeze or cuss, something like that. Cables, you'll need lots of cables. Whether it's going to be Cat 5, whether it's going to be audio cables. Sometimes we'll take the house feed, we'll take the sound from the stadium announcer if there's going to be some special pregame activity, something like that. And so we'll take a 100-foot XLR cable and plug into the house system, bring it across the press box and plug it into our system. And of course you want to test it before you do that, make sure it doesn't blow out anybody's ears. But now you've got the ability to bring the house sound in. And having the house sound in is always a lot of fun. Let's see. I know. Next on my list is the black bag. Everybody needs a black bag. The black bag is where you keep all those many, many, many different kinds of connectors that make the difference between success and failure. Hang on a second. Let's see. We need to go back to this game for just 1 second. There's your play-by-play guy. And you can see there was your play-by-play guy announcing it as it was happening. And that just, helped you understand and pay attention and, added to the excitement as he got excited about that. That was Brett Musburger. So let's see, black bag. The black bag, I've got a black bag right here. And my black bag is not black, it's green. But it's got all sorts of connectors in it that I can connect 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch and 1/8 inch to RCA and RCA to what else? To coax, and then I can go from what is that? What the Osprey cards have on them? The oh golly, what do you BNC to RCA. You can split. Whatever you never know what you're going to need. You know, do you need a stereo 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch? You might need that, so you better have a big bag of them and some spare batteries too for everything that carries batteries. Everybody needs a black bag. So you've got cameras. I know one other part about the audio. Before there was a time when we just had the audio from the two announcers, and we hadn't yet discovered the camera audio trick, and we had an old microphone, and so we would open up the window of the press box and stick that microphone out the window and then close the window on the cord so that we could pick up some crowd noise. It was great. It was a great way to pick up crowd noise, but it only works if the crowd right below the mic will cooperate. If they start talking bad and cussing and stuff like that, it doesn't work very well. Fortunately, the FCC in the United States doesn't get into internet yet, so they can't ban you or do anything to you if you have some 4-letter words in there that shouldn't be there. But you probably want to make sure that whoever's below that mic understands that the mic's there and what it can be for. There was another time when we were broadcasting a game, and there were some fans that were visiting with the other team that were pretty raucousy, and they were sitting right in front of the press box. And we were using a boom mic that was actually, it wasn't a condenser mic. I mean, it was a condenser mic. So it picked up all the noise, not just the announcer's voice, but it picked out all the noise. And the folks at home from the visiting team realized that they could hear their friends at the stadium. So they called them up and said, "Hey, we can hear every word you're saying." So that just made them scream louder and louder and louder. And it so flustered our announcers that one of them quit and walked out right in the middle of the game. So you want to think some of that stuff through beforehand. You don't want to lose your talent. You don't want to lose your talent because talent is hard to find. So those are my microphone stories. The other thing that I really can't I can't stress enough is testing. You can have a great setup, but you need to test it. And one of the best ways to test it is with a full dress rehearsal. And that full dress rehearsal would be, everything that you could possibly imagine that you would need during the course of a regular broadcast. Oh, I think we're going to pop over to this game for just a second. I think something's about to happen. No, we'll come right back to it. The full dress rehearsal should mimic everything that's going on as much as possible. If you've got student volunteers that are doing cameras, go ahead and bring them out there and give them a chance to play with the cameras and get used to it beforehand. If you're using a MiFi device or your phone's wireless, remember that there are going to be hundreds and hundreds of other wireless devices in the stadium at the time of your game. So, if you're getting a great, strong wireless signal, Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock, you might not get the same great wireless signal Friday evening at 8 o'clock. So remember to keep that in the back of your mind, that you're going to have to make some plans if that doesn't work for you. The other thing is, as much as you can, duplicate equipment so that you've got a backup. I know there were times when we were doing a lot of soccer matches. We would do a weekend. We do 14 soccer matches in a weekend. And so not only did we take extra cameras and extra cables, we also took an extra PC. And lo and behold, what was it? I guess we set up and we broadcast like eight soccer matches on a Saturday, tore everything down, put it in the truck, drove home, unloaded it, reloaded again, and then unloaded back the next Sunday morning, and the PC didn't work. For some reason, it just something happened, and it didn't do what it was supposed to do. And fortunately, we brought a second PC, and so within 4 or 5 minutes, really, we were able to redo it and get everything set back up so that we could broadcast. And this was unfortunate because it was actually, I think we were doing pay-per-view, and so we had to make some minor refunds to the folks that missed 4 or 5 minutes. And Andrew's saying in the chat room, and I appreciate the mention, Andrew, whatever time you think you're going to need to set up, I'd say probably double it. If you think it's going to take you an hour, it's probably going to take an hour and 45 minutes. The times that you have too much time are the times when everything goes beautifully. The times where you don't have enough time is where things sometimes break and don't work the way they're supposed to. So give yourself that kind of extra hour cushion, so that if everything's set up and you're ready to go and you've got an hour before before you have to broadcast, you've got an opportunity to run back through everything one more time, go out and get a soda, sit down and rest for a minute. As you know, if you've broadcast before, if you've done the technical part of it, there's no taking a break. It's not like you can, like halftime, you get the halftime off. No. You're probably running commercials or filling up airtime as best you can at that point. So make sure you have plenty of time. Have twice the number of cables you need, twice the amount of time you need, twice as many cameras as you need. And that way you'll be successful. And there's nothing that's less satisfying than to go to than to promote an event and spend a lot of time and energy putting that event together, and then not being able to pull it off because you forgot one piece and you didn't have a spare. And actually that's happened to me before. What was the piece that I was missing? I think it was and Andrew says, don't forget the gaffer tape. The heavy black tape so you can tape things together and it doesn't leave sticky residue when you're done. There was one game where it was probably a black bag connector that I had left on a cable in my garage and forgot to bring with me, and had to send somebody back to I had to go back to my house and get it. And I think we got on the air 2 minutes before game time. But it was one of those, almost disaster situations. Disaster averted. I'm reading some of the comments in the chat room. Let's see if we can put some of them up here. We've got great comment by Martin K. Fast changing image data cannot be compressed efficiently by codecs that depend on much of the frame not changing from frame to frame, and that's referring to trying to follow a punt through the air or any kind of quick motion. And Tom, did Tom mention wind gags for those days when it's not dead calm? And what Martin I think is talking about is the little wind socks that fit over the tops of the mics. And actually those are good in a press box too, because they can, a lot of times folks that aren't used to using a handheld mic, a lot of times will hit it against their mouth or something like that. They don't really understand the noise that or they'll drop it down on a table. And if you've got a cushioned windsock on it, at least it gives you a little bit of cushion so that you might not damage the mic or might not get that big thump. And talent that would walk out is better gone. Well, I agree with that, but sometimes talent is hard to find. And talent can be high-strung and finicky And so you kind of have to manage those guys and stroke them a little bit, tell them it's okay, it'll be better next game, and come on back, because you're only paying them a Coke and a hot dog. I mean, it's there's not a lot of money in it at this point. So great comments from the chat. Thank you for that. Yes, Martin calls it Charles calls it a dead cat. That's right, a dead cat is the part that sticks over the top of the mic to cut down on wind noise and to cut down on spit noise too. Let's see where are we going to go with this. Anyway, if you're doing broadcast, I'd love to hear about it. Leave me a note. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave me a comment here and tell us what kind of broadcast you do. In fact, if you can, leave us a URL so we can tune in and see and get some great ideas that we can use and share with other folks. If you want to drop me a line, it's tom@streamingidiots.com. I'm happy to help. Actually, a little brief advertisement. I am an authorized reseller for lots of the different software switchers like VidBlaster and vMix, and hopefully soon Wirecast. So we can help you with those if you need help. We can sell them to you. We can help you upgrade them, and we can support you. And you've got somebody to call Friday evening at 8 o'clock if things aren't working. And there's nothing like having that call to somebody. And here's how that call goes sometimes. Hey Tom, yeah, this is so and so. I'm at the game, and doggone it, this and this won't work. Well, hold on a second. Let me try this. Oh, it's working now. Never mind. Sorry to bother you. And that's where the learning happens, and it's lots of fun, and I'm happy to be part of that. So anyway, it's fun. I'm looking at the guys in the chat room. They think they're invisible somehow. I don't know. You got to watch the show live and see the chat. These guys, they're from all over the U.S., all over North America, and all over the world. It's funny how we can kind of band together with a common interest. Well, that's it. That's the show today, folks. So go out and broadcast some sports this fall. Have a lot of fun with it. Send us a URL so we can watch along too. And I tell you what, if you send me the URL, we'll share them on the shows in the upcoming weeks. And if you send us your schedule, we'll let people know about it so you can increase your viewers and increase your advertisers as a result. How about that? I'm Tom Sinclair. I'm kind of the chief streaming idiot right here. And we'd love to have you join us live here at Eastern Shore Studios. It's Eastern Shore EasternShoreBroadcasting.com. And you can get to us also on that VidBlasterGuy.com. And you can follow us on Twitter and go to our what do you call it? Our YouTube page. Yeah, that's it. Our YouTube page. It's that VidBlaster Guy. Anyway, it's been a treat, and we'll see you next time. Have a great week. Good luck in your broadcasts.